Greetings, fellow coal miners. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Frostpunk 2, Episode 3, Scraping the Barrel. Against all odds, the Wanderers' survival. When the whiteout hit the camp, the Wanderers were ready. Everyone was thankful we acted fast and gathered enough food in time. The miracle of the seal colony strengthened our hope that our journey will lead to a promised land. Our elders have added this story to our great tales, alongside warnings about a sinful city that still pumps smoke into the sky. We survived. Coal is running out. The captain is dead. As he weakened, growing divisions brought city maintenance to a grinding halt. Now, New London is left to suffer the consequences. As steward, it is your charge to lead, but you must prove yourself. The overcrowded city is low on resources. Use this warmer year to build more shelter, secure coal, and power the generator back on. Let's get to work. So, first task, frostbreak to a shallow coal seam and construct extraction district, turn on the generator, and construct new housing districts to address the lack of shelter. So here is the map explaining all the resources. We have prefabs. We have frozen forests and iron. They're both no, actually, all of this is frozen forest. And over here is iron. Somewhere. Iron. They're both materials. The reason there are different types of materials is there will be whiteouts that sometimes make extracting wood to be a lot slower. And sometimes there's whiteouts that make extracting iron to be a lot slower. So there's different material sources. This is coal seams. And then we have the fertile soil from before. And then the only other icon that you would not necessarily recognize is logistics districts. Basically, leaving this map tile to go explore the vast frozen wasteland. So let's get to it. We want to extract coal seams. Now, one thing that's important to note is there is this natural crevasse, which is sheltered from wind, which will make for easier to heat housing districts. If we take a look, there is other stable crevasses over here, which not only make it easier to heat, but also offer bonus shelter. There's this area, which offers bonus shelter, but it is exposed to the wind, so it's harder to heat. And then there's another stable crevasse over here. The stable crevasses are going to be best to put housing districts in due to that shelter bonus. I just wanted to point that out. So there is the extractions to the coal seam. And then we need... So each housing district is 20 shelter. So we're going to need at least 3, if not 4 of these things. So as I said before, in order to get the bonus, you just need 3 of the 6 pieces within the bonus area. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm mostly concerned about adjacency bonuses with the adjacent districts. So there's 2 houses that are adjacent to one another for a -20, and then within the shelter for another -20. So they're both -40 heating districts. And I'll do the same sort of design over here. And I'm going to build a little excess housing. There. So we'll have a shelter for 80 once that's constructed. Alright, we are sitting on 35,000 food, but in 55 weeks we will exhaust all of our food. So there's an exposed food area over here that we can immediately start tapping. Actually, I'm not going to build it like that, like this. I'm designing in such a way that I might be able to build housing adjacencies there. There's also something, a symbol that I wanted to show you. So this infinity symbol here doesn't actually mean it's infinite, but it means that if I unlocked the deep melting drill building, on the surface there's only 72,000 materials from the frozen forest, but underneath there's a deep frozen forest worth 100 million. So there are different symbols like that. So this is a deep fertile soil zone and a deep frozen forest zone. But as you can see here, there is no deep coal zone. So the coal on this map is finite, and there is no technology to allow me to get more access to it. I figured it was worth noting. One farm is not going to be able to cut it. We are in the hole 90 food, and each of these food districts offer 50. So let's get another food district out here, which will fulfill our food needs. Once we are extracting the coal, we're also going to need material needs. So I'm going to want, and immediately we're going to need prefab needs. So let's do an extraction district here for prefabs. And then I'm going to frost break this area here for materials. It's a whole lot of planning. In the bottom right, so I'll explain a few more of the UI elements to you. I feel like the music just went hard. I love the soundtrack, but it crescendos in a way that makes it deafening. So in the bottom here, we now have tensions. So tensions are problems within your city that go beyond simply food, disease, cold, squalor, and crime. So the current tensions is that I am running out, there's a fear that I am running out of coal, and a greatly increased fear of notable coal. Basically, it's super frozen out, and that's causing tensions. And as tensions rise, you will get protests and shutdowns and riots. There is also factions. So 43% of our community are Frostlanders, 12% are Stalwarts, and 45% are New Londoners. If we click on them, we can see what they believe in.
We are calling you, Stuart.
The Frostlanders believe only in adaptation. The New Londoners only believe in progress. So they are two opposing factions, right? One wants progress and one to use technology to survive, and one wants adaptation to use adaptations to the environment to survive. The stalwarts are more aligned with the New Londoners, which is why they're on the right. They also want progress, but they don't want just progress. They want progress, they want merit, and they want reason. And you guys voted that I side with the stalwarts, and I'll explain that more later. Other buttons to note. We have new districts here. So an industrial district either produces prefabs or goods. And goods, unlike last story scenario, goods is what you need to supply your people in order to prevent crime. So if you're really low on goods, it drives up crime and causes tensions. And then there is this logistics. So the logistics district is built around the edges of your city and allows you to interact with the overland map, which is, I cannot stress this enough, so crucially required that if you don't very quickly gain access to the logistics districts, you will lose. It's actually possibly one complaint I have of this game, which is if you can't turtle. You have to go out into the wasteland. There is no strategy that allows you to really turtle. Especially on this map that I have like super finite coal. But even on utopia maps, turtling is basically impossible. So I have tons of work queued up here. And I'm just waiting for it to all click over. This is now explaining heat stamps. So in the previous story, we had what was called scraps. But heat stamps are your income now. And right now, I am making fewer heat stamps than I normally would because I have an unmet demand for goods. Basically, I'm not supplying people enough with their like household items so that they're not paying full taxes. So that's another reason to raise your goods up. And you know what? Let's do that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So this is a logistics district, or not a logistics. This is an industrial district in order to make goods. So I planned it out here because it borders 3 units of the prefab district, and also will eventually have 3 units adjacent to the frozen forest extraction district. With that said, the prefabs districts almost always run out of resources really quick. This one runs out of resources in 80 weeks. So it's not really... prefab districts are not really permanent districts. Alright, so the frostbreaking I had queued up is now done. I want to immediately start to frostbreak the next coal seam, because 1 coal seam is not going to be enough. And then I'm going to start working towards the logistics edge. And let's set up the extraction for coal so that people don't freeze their butts off. All right, boom. Housing. So here, as you can see, the housing districts don't require heat because they took advantage of multiple adjacencies. And then we have a surplus of food, which is awesome. But what I'm going to do is actually decrease the workers in one of the food districts so they break even for now. Also, I'm going to pick one of the housing districts at random and reduce its... Actually, maybe two... no, they were all zeros. So I'm going to reduce one at random to have fewer people working in the housing districts, to free up as much workforce as possible so that they can be put into resource acquisition. All right, we have another extraction district. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as I mentioned, I have 75 heat stamps left. I probably will save those heat stamps for the moment. Can they suffer from adjacency penalties? Yes, I spoke about this in the last story, but extraction and industrial districts produce pollution, which causes squalor. So if I take a look here and set up a housing district, you can see this red marker here. If I have 3 pieces of the housing district adjacent to an industrial district, it raises squalor. So you can build to take advantage of combining your industry with food and residential, because there isn't that penalty with food districts. Food and housing districts adjacent to one another don't suffer penalties, but if there are penalties to be found, you can see it very easily on the map as you're building new districts. And likewise, putting an industrial district next to housing, you can see the issue just invert, where it's like, hey, don't put it here because it's going to pollute the houses. So this is what I was saying before. If I want to clear out the area around the logistics area, and I create a path like this, and want to clear both sides next, I won't be able to, because I've split it in the middle. So I'm instead going to frost break like this, so that I can have a better frost breaking thereafter. Okay. The industrial districts can produce prefabs or goods. And I want this one to produce goods so that we can start to collect full taxes. So instead of prefabs per week, goods per week. And we've almost met the needs for goods. I am going to further reduce the amount of food that I'm producing. And the reason this is I would like to set up an extraction district here for the materials so that I can equal out my materials a little bit better. And also will create additional adjacency bonuses for these other 2 districts. And there we go. We are now collecting coal, so I can turn on the generator. Generator on. Scraping the barrel. Good work, Stewart. We have secured a new coal deposit. It's part of the last vein in New London. There are still some deposits left, but they won't last for long. We'll need to improve our mining to use it differently, but the city's communities are voicing different ideas about how to do it. We need to decide whose ideas are worth pursuing. We must choose a solution. So next, I need to expand an existing housing district and build a research institute. Research an idea for new coal mines and construct a newly researched building in the extraction district. So in order to expand housing, I need 50 heat stamps. I'm also, we're not fully meeting heating needs, so I am going to overdrive the generator for now, because we're building another coal extraction district over here, so I won't have to overdrive the generator for too long.
All your adoring letters, and will answer personally in due time.
You heard the man. I'll answer your letters in due time. Actually, I'm pretty good responding about YouTube comments, I'd like to think. So expanding a housing district requires 50 heat stamps, and I'm going to get that in 2 days. 1 day. Come on. What? I wasn't paid on the first? Blasphemy! Alright, I was paid on the 3rd. That's okay. Alright, so when you're expanding your housing districts, I want to expand this housing district And I want to expand the housing district towards the food district. I'm actually going to expand this one. Oh, no, I have to take that back. I'm going to expand this one. 1, 2, 3. So, I don't have 3 tiles bordering the food district. I only have 2 tiles bordering the food district. But I can expand the housing or the food district again after doing this to take advantage of that adjacency bonus. So now the housing district will look like this once it's done, where they share a 2 border, not a 3 border. The generator wakes, a child is born. So people are hopeful that there is a future for them after all. So essentially, tensions are easing, which is good. The building, the Research Institute building, requires 100 heat stamps, so I'm going to need to save up for that. It's going to take a minute for me to get that kind of currency. Now that I have 2 coal seams fired up, I no longer need to overdrive the generator because we are in the net positive for coal. I still make 74 coal. Okay, the housing district is expanded. With the expanded housing district, I'm going to further decrease the people working in this one, because I don't need to offer more shelter than people actually live in shelters. That frees up a little bit of extra workforce, which is good, because I need 400 workforce for the Research Institute, so we're not quite at that number. But what I'll do, until I have the heat stamps to actually build the Research Institute, I'm going to put everyone to work in the food district, keeping our food surplus even. I do realize that my materials is in the negative, and that will become a problem in about 28 weeks. But I'm not worried about that just yet. So the cold is diminishing. The disease is stable, which is actually surprising. It's significantly increased by cold. Okay, so now that cold is gone, nobody's cold, disease is going to go away too, meaning that I've resolved all of the immediate issues. There's still the underlying tension of people fearing that we're going to run out of coal. So that's really the goal we're working on. Okay, great. No one's hungry, no one's diseased, no one's cold, no one's in squalor, and no one is committing crimes. The other thing I wanted to mention before, and I forgot to, is up here you have how many guards. So the central district, which is essentially the generator district, the generator district is producing a base amount of shelter, food, goods, and guards. And you can add more guards with research later on. But you have guards and frostland teams. Guards being ones that reduce crime, and frostland teams are the ones that exploit resources beyond your map tile and trade and create paths and all that stuff. And we'll get there in a minute. Alright, I have the necessary amount of heat stamps in order to build a research. So let's go ahead and pare down the amount of people working in the farm to, I guess we're closing this farm entirely, so that I have the personnel for the Research Institute and building a Research Institute. In fact, I think what I'm going to do, because I have a lot of prefabs, is reduce the amount of people working in the prefab building to put the farm back to work. So the amount of food that we have is just a little bit of deficit, and we're just acquiring prefabs slower. I'm also going to hit overdrive. The reason I'm hitting overdrive is I'm trying to build up a stockpile of coal, because I can see in the forecast here it gets colder and colder. So I'm trying to build up a nice stockpile of coal now, knowing that cold is on the horizon. If you're wondering, the game does warn you when you are going to blow your engines. It does throw an alert. Different ideas, communities of New London. A small crowd gathers outside the new research institute, arguing about how to exploit the last coal veins. The stalwarts and New Londoners want us to learn machine-powered mining, but the Frostlanders would have us pursue a more frugal solution. They would never display such discord under the captain's rule. You have to choose who to entrust with developing their idea. So here is the idea tree. And for all of the technologies, and they're sorted by heating, resources, frostland, city, society, and hubs, we need to decide which idea for coal mines to pursue. So Frostlanders want the dust coal mine, which uses 400 people, a coal output of 150. It causes a little extra disease because it takes coal dust and compresses into bricks, and it has a material demand of 20. Whereas the New Londoners and the Stalwarts want a blasting coal mine. So it requires less people and outputs more coal, but it has more material needed. And I can research, technically I can research both ideas, but for this, we are siding with the New Londoners and the Stalwarts, as that was voted on. So I will be researching blasting coal mine once we have the heat stamps for it.
Do not be alarmed by any unusual noises coming from the generator. Routine maintenance work is underway.
In the top left, we can also see that I have about 310 weeks of coal left before I run out. So coal mines. Blasting coal mine. In this case, when you side with one faction, it will upset the other faction. So pursuing... So this blasting coal mine here is a progress technology. So anyone that believes in tradition, or rather adaptation is the opposite of progress, anyone that believes in adaptation will be inevitably upset by it. But we do it anyway. Also, picking Stalwarts or New Londoners, it is the same technology, so it doesn't matter who we choose. Both are going to get the same benefit. So there's the research for blasting coal mines. And then the blasting coal mines itself will have a construction cost once researched. And I'm going to want to save up the 80 heat stamps when it's finished researched so that we can actually construct one of these bad boys. Alright, here's an update. The generator is revered and respected by Stalwarts. So they're here admiring the generator. And we can actually see that by zooming in on the district. Pretty cool, right? And you could do that everywhere. So let's say we want to admire the coal extraction district. Let's do that. Here's the coal extraction. Let's check out our farms too. And what's interesting about this is when there's tension or faction wars, you can actually see it play out. The whole city looks different. Alright, while we are researching the blasting coal mine, one thing I would really like to do is to gain access to the old way stations here. So I need 30 heat stamps for the frost breaking for that. And also 200 workforce free. So let's get the workforce free first. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I also want to save up the workforce and heat stamps for the logistics district. As I said, it is a crucially important district, and your survival basically hinges upon how fast you get logistics up. That's how powerful it is, at least in my opinion. Unless you're maybe playing on the easiest difficulty, but I am not. So I already have the heat stamps for the logistics. I just need the workforce. And I think what I'm going to do is reduce or shut down one of the food and reduce the other food so that I can go exploring. Here we go. So I'll run out of food in 88 weeks. I'll run out of materials in 24 weeks. I'll have the blasting coal mine in 7 weeks and 2 days. And I'm going to save up the heat stamps up to 80 for the blasting coal mine. It's also important noting, this is not like an achievement run. I'm not trying to for any specific achievement. I'm just mentioning that in case anyone was wondering if I'm like achievement hunting or not. And I am not.
Help us keep you warm.
So I almost have the heat stamps in order to get the blasting coal mine.
To the nearest.
And now I have the logistics district built. We can survey the frozen lands around New London and find a source of fuel to ensure its future. So here is the world map. Different areas have different exploration costs. So areas like plains are easy to explore. Areas like mountains are not. Overpopulation and dwindling fuel reserves forced many residents of New London to take refuge in these temporary shelters built around a hot spring. Its inhabitants wait for conditions to improve long enough for them to return home. I am going to send 5 of my 15 Frostland teams to bring these New Londoners back to New London. We decided to side with Stalwarts, which is shares an affinity with New Londoners. So when given the chance, I would like to bring New Londoners to New London. So we'll take that on. And then taking a look around, we have a frozen bay, which costs 10 and is safe to search. We have foothills, which cost 10 and is safe to search. We have a gorge, which costs 20 and is dangerous. And we have highlands, which cost 20 and is dangerous. So I'm going to go to the foothills. The foothills, it's possible to find prefabs, cores, and frostland dwellers. In the frozen bay, it's possible to find frostland dwellers. And when we hit launch expedition, my frostland team will be sent out to go explore the foothills. As you can see them physically moving there now. And then in the top right, we have their progress bar. So this percentage is when the next team is going to finish. So if you have like 10 teams, it's the team that is going to finish their next task soonest. So it kind of tells you if you have stuff. There's also a little number that pops up when you have notifications that about the overland map that you have not yet read. So the game will tell you about that. Also here, the 2,600 refugees that we offered shelter to obviously is going to ramp our population from 8,000 to like 10,400 or 600. So I'm going to need a whole lot more housing in a minute. So this housing district can be ramped up to support some, but we're going to definitely need to expand and build housing for them. No doubt. And you can see their little icon here. This is their arrival time. They're actually traveling towards us. And they're in. So we have 10,600 now. So let's start making accommodations for them. I am missing 24 shelters. Got it. One of the first things I'm going to do is to ramp up the facilities that were that had low or no people working in it. And then let's see. I'm going to expand this house there and then back this way. And then I'm going to build a new housing district in a second. Yep, right now, actually. So this housing district... Well, I'm going to wait for the other housing district to finish expanding first. So maybe what I'll do in the meantime is build a new one out here. But I need a frost break first. Make better room for it. We're also going to be facing increased heating needs, because we're adding more houses, and increased food needs, material needs, good needs, all needs go up, and it takes a minute to meet those needs. So I have 5 extra Frostland teams, and I'm going to shrink down the employment a little bit because I don't need idle teams. What's the benefit of expanding one district versus having multiples? So, expanding a district will keep all of its adjacency bonuses and increase its physical area so that there's a potential for even more adjacency bonuses. And it also increases the building slots. So this dense housing district has a building slot for the Research Institute, where this housing district hasn't been expanded, so it doesn't have a building slot. And those building slots become really important because those building slots are where you build like guard towers or hospitals or vent towers to combat squalor. Or even denser housing districts. So expanded housing districts give you more capabilities, whereas simple housing districts do not. And then, so I tend to lean, because of the adjacency bonuses, on expanding districts when possible. Because it's a powerful tool. All right, generator, you are overdrive 49%, and we're pretty close on finishing the blasting coal mine idea. So I'm going to save up my heat stamps to build the blasting coal mine rather than to invest any further into shelters for now. It is getting colder, so coal is probably more urgent than really anything else. So the blasting coal mine is done, and in buildings, I can go to the extraction and see that with 80 heat stamps, I'll be able to build the blasting coal mine. So it requires 34 more heat stamps. And my new Londoners are now scouting out around the foothills here. Thank you for tuning in to Frostpunk 2, which originally streamed live on Twitch September 21st. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind that I'm trying to avoid spoilers. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow survivors.